All right, staying with some African stories. South Africa will know in 2 weeks' time the extent to which its bid for a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council has been successful. Staff at the country's permanent mission in New York are lobbying to ensure the support of as many countries as possible, despite only requiring two-thirds majority to attain the uncontested African seat. Speaking exclusively to SABCNEWS, Ambassador Jerry Matjila addressed the behind-the-scenes work that goes into joining this exclusive club as he sought to position South Africa as representing not just its own national interest on the council, but that of the entire African continent.
He is a man on a mission, arriving from meetings at the UN to chair a strategy session on securing as many yes votes in support of South Africa's bid. Our cameras allowed in briefly to observe.
For this meeting, the most important thing is how many more countries are left.
He's talking about countries that have yet to commit their support or those he's still to meet. Only 129 yes votes are required in the 193-member UN General Assembly. Pretoria received 186 votes in 2006 and 182 votes in 2010 to secure their earlier tenures on the council.
Much as we lobby, we also listen to them. So there's been a very, very hectic time. I've seen them one by one. We've seen 171 so far, one by one. But also what we do, having seen them, we then say to them, who of these we have seen, we are sure that come what may, they will vote for us. Because we have to be sure by the end of this month, we have gone beyond 186. So far we are sure about 160. That these ones, come what may, vote for South Africa.
Private meetings over lunch and dinner, often hosting ambassadors at his private residence, using national events like Freedom Day, have been important platforms in lobbying support, while South African diplomats the world over have also played a critical role.
So you can get from all over the world that the colleagues through the headquarters have been very busy lobbying. So it has been a multi-prong. What we need now is political consolidation of the process going forward. But people like our message, to be very honest, because people say, you know, South Africa and others can give substance to what Secretary General Guterres prioritizing as a preventive diplomacy.
Ambassador, what is South Africa's fundamental strategy in this campaign for a non-permanent seat on the Security Council?
The issue of global peace and security is our great concern. Now, if you look into the legacy of Nelson Mandela, there are a lot of things that we believe that the UN ought to emulate or at least seeks to advocate. So we thought that perhaps the key strategy that we have to employ is to bring back the UN Security Council to the preventive diplomacy, to the issue of negotiation, the issue of fighting with a mouth, not fighting with a gun. There is a Tswana say that you fight with a mouth. You don't fight with a gun.
At a time when the council is as divided as ever, with some big countries placing their national interests above those of the collective and undermining the mandate of the council, which is the maintenance of international peace and security.
You need very activist members of the UN, just at least to remind people for 2 years, just to remind them of the common good, common responsibility, common future. That as well as you address your national interests, don't forget the responsibility bestowed on you by the Charter of the United Nations.
He says their task will be to highlight peace and security, questions of human rights and development, areas deeply aligned with the African Union.
Everywhere we prioritize Africa as a continent. And that's why we say it is very important for the UN to work with regional organizations like the AU, because it has its own institutions, its own policies, it knows the neighborhood. Of course, sometimes we'll get national instructions. But you see, AU take decision on a very, very fundamental questions of peace and security, of development.
What is the one issue, and I imagine this would be somewhere in the African continent, that South Africa believes its presence on the Security Council would be able to move that situation forward?
We have to get the DRC right. Election and post-election. The DRC is a very significant country in SADC, in our region. And I think the efforts and the resources that we have deployed the DRC, the UN, we ought to get it right. The DRC, get it right, is going to have a positive impact on the South African Republic, on South Sudan, on Burundi. So get the DRC right. It borders over 9 countries. And all these countries, when they talk about Burundi, they border the DRC. Sure. Get it right. If you get it right, because it has immense resources for development to uplift the entire region. Mm-hmm. So I think this will be one of our key priorities.
Back in their strategy session, a green color-coded Excel sheet emerges. Green denotes support of member states. That is locked in.
We have to look at these blank spots in the chart.
And while the seat is all but secured, the fewer blank spots, the better. Shervin Brycepease, SABC News, New York.